There is no question that the Texas Longhorns are absolutely ready to make their way into the SEC. Don't let anybody tell you different. There's lots of people that want to say, oh, well, Oklahoma and Texas are going to have problems with struggling and things like that. And they're going to come in and it's going to be a physical season. And yes, there are elements to that to every team because every team in the SEC is going to have to deal with that. But make no bones about it. The Texas Longhorns are as talented and as deep as any team, not only in the SEC, but in all of college football. That includes the Georgia Bulldogs, and they have some big time games that come to their home turf this year, including those Georgia Bulldogs. But today we're going to be talking about a particular 3-game stretch that is going to be crucial, the most important 3-game stretch of the season for the Texas Longhorns. Now, I could have gone a lot of different ways with this, and I'm not even going to include the stretch that has Mississippi State at the beginning and then also Vanderbilt at the end because, guys, Georgia and Oklahoma are in the middle of that. It's a 2-game stretch. I feel like Texas is going to split those games. They're going to win one of them, probably lose one of them. That's just a gut feeling of because it's going to take a monumental effort just to run the table as they were doing last year going into the college football playoff. It's going to be extremely difficult to do that once again just by law of averages. However, when you get to the end of the season, that is where some of this comes into play. Hello, everyone. I'm Blaine Gilmer. Welcome in to SEC Unfiltered. Thank you so much for tuning in to the best SEC entity on the internet. Guys, we bring you more coverage, more news, more analysis than anybody out there here on this channel. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and we'll be talking all off season, all summer, all into fall camp, and then all season long about your Texas Longhorns, and then, of course, about the rest of the SEC as well. 2024 is shaping up to be a very intriguing year. You have those two big powers, really 3 teams that I think everybody's expecting a ton out of, 3 or 4 if you want to throw Alabama with the new change in there now. So to me, I know everybody's going crazy about Kalen DeBoer and Alabama, but I think I have to see it down there. I have to see it without Nick Saban in place to make sure everything's all well with Alabama, particularly with how much turnover they had on that roster. But if you look at those 4 teams that are presumed to be the favorites in the SEC, Georgia, Texas, Missouri, and Alabama this year, they all have experienced quarterback play, guys who have been successful. Quinn Ewers, of course, for Texas. Carson Beck is tied right there with him at the beginning of this season, or where we're at right now in late March, early April, on in terms of the Heisman odds. So you get Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers that are tied neck and neck for the Heisman Trophy odds here on April 1st. And then, of course, you have Jalen Milroe for Alabama. You have Brady Cook for Missouri. So there's so many talented quarterbacks, experienced guys. There's going to be little nuances around them that you have to figure out and have to get right in order to separate yourself in a league of 16 teams that is going to be ridiculously hard to navigate through, particularly with some of the schedules that these SEC teams have. But I think where I'm going to go for the toughest 3-game, not the toughest, but the most important 3-game stretch for Texas. And remember what I mean, most important, where is it in the season? What are the playoff implications? How are things going to be at that point for the teams that you're playing against during that time of the year? What is their level of desperation? What are they playing for that point in the season? And I think a lot of this towards the end is going to be fresh in the mind of the playoff committee, fresh in the mind of these people who are making these decisions on at-large bids, on seeding, on all these different types of things, which I think Texas will be squarely in that conversation for as you go forward. Also, SEC championship time as you get closer to who's going to be getting that SEC championship berth. So I think the end of the season is going to be where I'm going to go, and I'm going to go with the 3 games of Arkansas, which is at Arkansas at DWR Razorback Stadium. Then you got Kentucky coming to Austin. And then, of course, a rivalry game that I'm really, really looking forward to getting back into the swing of things with Texas going to Texas A&M. So we're going to get into all of those and break each one of them down here just a second. But I want to tell you guys about RHOBACK Activewear. Guys, if you haven't heard of RHOBACK before, then it's time to check them out, because it's safe to say that we'd bet on those guys any day of the week because we absolutely love their gear. We couldn't be more pumped about working with RHOBACK. It's simply the most comfortable gear that we own. And guys, whether you're looking for performance polos to hoodies to shorts, the best fit, the best feel, you need to check out RHOBACK. That's RHOBACK. You'll see guys on the PGA Tour, all that kind of stuff that are rocking RHOBACK. Also, some of your favorite athletes around the SEC, they're rocking RHOBACK and are now partners with them in this great age of NIL. RHOBACK's performance polos are the most comfortable polos out there. They are moisture wicking with 4-way stretch, making them the perfect game day fit. And guys, the Masters is coming up right around the corner. They've got their Azalea collection out. So make sure to check out RHOBACK and use the promo code SECU on rhoback.com and get a generous 20% off on your first order through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK, RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off on all bottoms, polos, hoodies, and more with SECU promo. All right, guys, now let's get right into it here. Game 1 of this 3-game stretch on November 16th at Arkansas. The reason that I think this is part of the most important 3-game stretch for Texas, because I believe at the most they're going to have 1 loss coming into this point of the year and going into these final 3 games. So maybe they slip up on the road to a Michigan. I highly doubt it. Maybe they get narrowly beat by a Georgia team that I think is really their only rival in terms of the talent and the depth that Texas has this year. And Georgia's going to be a very good team, could go on the road and beat them possibly. But at worst, I think Texas has 1 loss coming into this point in the year. That cannot be said for Arkansas at this point in the year. I think you'll see a Sam Pittman team where Sam Pittman is either in the spot where he is coaching for his life and they probably have 4 or 5 losses and are playing for bowl eligibility at this point in the season. Or maybe it's a deal where things have already gone south and Bobby Petrino, who was brought in by Sam Pittman to be his offensive coordinator, is going to, kind of be putting on display that he could possibly be the next head coach at Arkansas, and his offense getting rolling and things like that over there. They have Taylor Green at quarterback. They have some talented receivers. And I think we just remember the last time that Texas played Arkansas at DWR Stadium. It was an electric environment, and that Arkansas crowd really helped push the Hogs over the top, over the horns that day. So it's going to be a crazy environment. It's an old school rivalry. You got to go back and take into account some of that. There's no love lost between the two fan bases, and Arkansas will be desperate. Zero doubt that Texas is more talented and deeper than Arkansas. This is a game where Texas should go on the road and win. Despite the crowd, despite the excitement, despite the desperation from Arkansas, Texas should go on the road and win. But there's always the deal of having to go and do it, right? And we're going to see physicality in this game. We're going to see a need for maturity for Texas in this game. So there's a lot on the line here, and there's a lot at this point where, hey, if you have a slip up, lose a game that you're not supposed to lose this late in the season, it could cost you, especially if you have 1 SEC loss already, which it's possible that Texas could. Like I said, would it shock me if Texas is undefeated going into this point in the year? No, it would not shock me at all, because Texas is that good and that deep. However, early on in the season, how well does do some of those weapons mesh with Quinn Ewers? I think we know right off the bat that Isaiah Bond and Quinn Ewers are going to fit very well. I think he's going to be a guy that is just clicking right away. We've heard things, really good things from the Ryan Wingo aspect of things as a young guy who's coming aboard. Of course, Jonte Cook returns, and then you have Silas Bolden and Matthew Golden who are there that come in from Oregon State and from Houston, respectively. How does all that mold together? You got a lot of mouths to feed, so to speak, if you're Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian. Amari Niblack comes in from Alabama, so they have a lot of weapons that they have to kind of distribute that ball to, make sure everything's going well at this point in the year. So how is that all meshed together through the first 8-9 games as you go throughout the season here, and then you arrive at Arkansas, a tough SEC road game environment for all the reasons that we said. So that's game one of this 3-game stretch that we are looking at here, is the most important 3-game stretch for Texas. Then you welcome in a very physical Kentucky team at home. When you're looking at this Kentucky team, you got a lot of new on this team. Brock Vandergriff mixed with a lot of old. So that defensive side is very experienced. And Mark Stoops, listen, he almost left a year ago, but I think there's been a kind of revitalization of, okay, he almost went to Texas A&M, Mark Stoops did, and now he's brought in a new offensive coordinator with Bush Hamden, who he had to go out and get a new OC from Boise State because Liam Cohen left and went to the Tampa Bay Bucks. At this point in the year, I think it could be that Kentucky is in a very rough spot. I really do. But however, they are a physical football team. You cannot overlook them. And it's just that week in, week out SEC grind, where even if it's a team that I think could be struggling, could be playing subpar at this point in the year, right after playing a energized Arkansas team on the road, coming home back to Texas Memorial Stadium to take on the Kentucky Wildcats could be tough. At this point in the year, I think Kentucky's probably got 4 losses on the season, so they're still have a chance, if they were to win this game, to have a 8-win season. At worst, they're looking maybe 7-5, I would think, if they drop this one to Texas. So plenty to play for. And if they were going throughout, Brock Vandergriff, of course, has 2 years of eligibility. He'll be looking to utilize this game against a very, very tough Texas defense to try to put his NFL resume together, as he's got this year and next year to kind of prove things. So, there's a lot on the line for a lot of these players individually and then also team wise. But again, this one's more about maturity for Texas, a game you'll be favored in, a game you should win, but just the back-to-back physicality and people don't realize that, Texas has had to gone through at different points in the year. They're spread out nicely, but Michigan, a physical game. You get Oklahoma and Georgia back to back. Then a couple of weeks later, you get a Florida team who is going to be going through a gauntlet, but they play physical under Billy Napier. And then Arkansas and Kentucky back to back. The physicality is going to be there on your schedule, even if you are more talented than the rest of these teams. And the problem that they have a little bit for Texas is, how is that defensive line depth going to evolve? We know with T'Vondre Sweat, and we know with Byron Murphy moving on, and Bo Davis going to LSU as the defensive line coach. You got to get new coach there on that side of the ball. You got to have guys step up if you're Texas on that defensive side. We know that we've heard good things about Alex January is a good guy who can come and add depth for Texas up front when you're losing guys like Sweat and you're losing guys like Murphy. They've got Sevilla and Sydir Mitchell and Jeray Bledsoe and Broughton, all these guys along that defensive front that are going to have to just kind of step up and be the guy for Texas. So we'll see week in and week out teams wanting to step up and run the football towards you, how that looks. But I think at this point in the year, 2 very important games that you can't overlook, and you have to have maturity and physicality to win both of them. I think Texas can do so. And then this game, I just love this game. I love everything about it. I love that Mike Elko is going to want to win this game more than he wants air to breathe. And the question is does Texas look at this game the same way that Texas A&M will? Because Texas, I think, honestly, is to the point where they don't view A&M as a real threat. Okay, I think they're to the point where they're like, okay, that's little brother over there. We've been in the college football playoff. We are rolling again. Texas A&M has had all kinds of dysfunction. Heck, we're taking a lot of players, from them and recruiting and different things of that nature. I just wonder what the level of desperation is going to look like for each team. You've got Mike Elko going around telling high school coaches in the state of Texas that, Texas A&M is the school, that the preeminent school in the state, and going around and trying to make up for lost time on a lot of these relationships with some of these high school coaches in order to kind of get in the good graces of the football minds, the football people, if you will, around the Lone Star State. But when it comes down to it, like I said, these are two teams that Texas A&M, the talent gap is not as far as it is from some of these other teams. Like I would say with Arkansas and with Kentucky, there's a much larger talent gap there that Texas can enjoy over those teams. However, with Texas A&M, there's not that large of a talent gap, and it all depends on how Mike Elko has this team. Are they bought in at this point in the year? Are they playing for is this a deal where Texas A&M only has a couple of losses coming into this? Are they playing for a 9-10 win season if they were to win this game at home at Kyle Field? We know what kind of environment that is, particularly when they have something really to believe in and cheer for. So I'm excited to see this. Listen, again, Texas should be favored to win each one of these three matchups, but Texas also will need to show maturity and physicality and execute in order to win all three of these games and not slip up on one of them. And then, that's crucial with the college football playoff committee, depending on where you're at. If you have one loss, two loss, are they both SEC losses? What does that all look like? Who gets into that SEC championship game? Who gets an at-large bid if you're looking for playoffs? All this kind of stuff. There's so many different dynamics here. It's going to be a tremendous season to follow, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the Longhorns navigate everything. But, guys, that is my most important three-game stretch. Listen, Georgia and Oklahoma earlier in the year, the way that fell and the way that went down, I wasn't concerned about making that the most important three-game stretch, because I don't think that Texas is going to have to worry about that, guys. I mean, they're Mississippi State, even with Jeff Lebby being the guy, I couldn't justify putting that at the beginning of an important three-game stretch, because I think they're going to blow Mississippi State out. And then anything that has Vanderbilt included in it, I couldn't do that. But they get a bye week before Oklahoma. They'll be up and ready for that game. It is going to be tough turning right around and having Georgia come to town, but you get that one at home. This one where you had sandwiched two away games in the SEC and then a physical Kentucky team coming to Memorial Stadium there, I had to make this the most important three-game stretch, because I will tell you this, winning on the road in the SEC, the Alabama game last year showed that Texas is plenty good enough and plenty mature enough to go do it. But doing it consistently, winning on the road in the SEC, is as difficult as anything in all of college football. And those two away games at DWR Stadium, Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville, and at Kyle Field in College Station, sandwiching that Kentucky game, that's a tough and a most important three-game stretch for the Texas Longhorns. Guys, I am Blaine Gilmer. Make sure to follow me on X using @BGilmer18. You can follow our platform using @SEC Unfiltered on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, anywhere you utilize social media. And then, of course, SECUnfiltered.com for lots of great coverage, written content, links to our videos, a ton of stuff over on the website. So check it out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to use the promo code SECU at RHOBACK. That's RHOBACK.com to get your performance polos, hoodies, all that good stuff, a 20% discount off of that. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. God bless you, and we'll catch you guys next time to talk more Texas football, more SEC football, and all things SEC on the best SEC entity on the internet, SEC Unfiltered.